of the air and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. The word of God says that, and God said, it is not good for man to live alone. I'll make him a helpmate, one who looks like him. And then the following text says, and then God brought all the animals that he had made and paraded them before Adam, and Adam gave them names. Many a times this text, when it is read, people think about family life. Family life. But I want to look at it with another glass, that this text of Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, it simply says that man is a social being, and man cannot live alone. A man needs someone. Your happiness cannot be complete if you are put on an island alone as you are. Man is a social being. That's how God created us. And we need to socialize. You know, you can misunderstand what I'm talking about and say, since this is a meeting of young people, young girls and young boys, then I'm saying that now you start socializing with the opposite sex one, so that you fulfill what the Word of God is saying. But that's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying that God created us as social beings. We need to socialize. We need to work together. We need to walk together. And this must start from just initial stages, that we understand what God means. And God gave man the power to name everything. It says all the fowl in the air and all these other animals, God gave man the power. In fact, in that same book, Genesis chapter 1, verses 28, God says that God blessed them, and those are the first families. I'm not interested in that. And God told them, you go and do whatever. That's not my interest. But my interest is the last sentence that says, and God gave them the power to have rulership, to have dominion over all other creatures. That's where my emphasis is. So God gave man the power to have dominion over other creatures and not over a fellow human being. That was not the intention of God. For a fellow human being, God made us to socialize, to work together, to walk together, so that our life is complete and our happiness can be attained when we are together. Young people, God has called us in His church. And it is now in this age that the Lord's expectation from us is very high, for simple reasons. Number one, because now we are strong. We are able to go places. And if you are not going places at this age, you will regret, because you would want to go and it will not be possible. It's also recorded in the book of Ecclesiastes. It says a time will reach when you will be taken to places where you never wanted to go. And it is at this stage that the Word of God says that because we have the power and we have overcome the evil one. That's what John records. That I'm writing to you, to young people, because you people, you are strong and you have overcome the evil one at this age. In fact, this is the age that the world needs you most, and the church needs you most, and the parents needs you most. This is the age when you have a lot of creative ideas that the Lord put in you, because you think like a computer. You know, mine is going down now. And now if you take me too fast, then you'll find we are not together. Because now I'm thinking so many things, and I digest them. You know, for you can grasp them very fast. Just some other day when I was doing some Gumbaru classes. Gumbaru is the education of the elderly people. So when I was there, and then we had a class general class where we had young people, and we were together in this class, and the lecturer was there telling us, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. We found young people like the lecturer is wasting time. Already we have understood, we know what is expected of us. And for us, we are still raising up our hands. What do you mean? How do you want us to do it? But for them, it is taken. Sometimes they can be too fast that they know what they don't know. That's also the danger at your age. You can know what you don't know. And also at your age, you need to appreciate one thing. And I love this one. It's written by one of the psychologists. They are saying that what your father sees or your mother sees while she's seated or is seated, for you to see it as a young person, you have to stand up. If you sit where he's seated, you will never see what he sees. So if you want to see what he's seeing while seated, you have to do what? You stand up. And what he sees when he stands up, for you to see it, you must climb a ladder. And you need also to appreciate that, because that's how they are. They have seen. So out of experience, they can also be talking because they have seen more than what you've seen. But the fact remains that the energy to do, I plan big things, then now I put them to you to run with it. Because you have the power, you have the energy, you can be able to do it. I expect you to be able to go places where I cannot go. I expect you to be doing this thing, The other time we were doing a course in this IT thing. So for me to write even in my laptop, it's like a hand that is given the maize. So you just pick one. And this young person is just like this, and you wonder what's happening. So we go to a class, and then we are told, all fingers on the home keys, eyes to the notes. So home keys, and then eyes to the notes. And then we are told, now 1, 2, 3, start. Then we start. Then we are told, okay, stop. Now look at the screen, what you have written. It was a big shame. Big shame, because I look at it, all fingers to the home keys, though we had been taught the home keys, then eyes to the notes, and then you type. They don't want you to check here. For me, I have to check the keyboard, because it's just a finger. But for this one, they do it. So at the end of the day, we are told, okay, now check what you have written. Now you look at the screen, and you see, then you are told, can you give yourself the marks? Because this is what you are supposed to type. And we are typing the same thing, but we are told all fingers to the home keys, eyes to the notes. Then we are told, okay, now can you give yourself the marks? What you have written. I look at it, even myself, I would give myself 1 out of 100. And it was justified, because that's what I did. But these guys, you are good. So that energy is what is expected you to do God's work. And as we go for this seminar, because this is not my day, I just wanted to remind ourselves that God made us to socialize. Number 2, to have the power over other creatures and even name them. That is the powers that you have, and please don't underrate what the Lord has given unto you, and may God bless you. Can we stand for a word of prayer? Father God, we are here and we want to open up our brains that, Lord, this morning may be used in a manner that will bring glory and honor to your holy name. We want to thank you, Lord, because you have called us. We want to thank you because you have planned with us. This thing has taken us long planning for this day. And Lord, we just want to thank you that you have made it possible and it has come now to pass. We want to thank you, Lord, for the facilitators, those who will be leading us and guiding us throughout this seminar. The Lord, you may use them as instruments. And also, Lord, give us the heart to absorb that which they are going to teach us. The Lord, it may change even our way of thinking, our direction in life. That, Lord, we move positively towards the direction you want us to be. Because we are still young and we have the energy, Lord, we pray that may we use our energy in the right way and not misuse it to glorify the devil. Give us the power, Lord, to be happy in this session, and also, Lord, to be able to understand what is expected of us. And at the end of it, Lord, may each of us walk out of this place saying, for sure I've grown for having attended this seminar. For in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Pastor, thank you very much. But I hope your speed improved in the course of time. One time, someone did so well in his work, and they got an opportunity to visit the US, and he was going to a hall where great performances are done, but the person came from Tanzania, actually, just the neighboring country here. And he met, these people that you can meet along the streets. He was playing a music instrument, but at the same time begging, for help. And the person asked, can you give me your direction to Carnegie Hall? How do I get there? So he was going to this hall where performances are done. And the person who was begging asked, excuse me, what did you say? Can you show me or give me the direction to Carnegie Hall? Then the person who was begging asked, you want to go to Carnegie Hall? Yes. If you want to go there, you must practice, practice, and practice again. I know you don't get it yet. What the person who was begging understood is, how can I merit to go to Carnegie Hall where I should perform like the stars? He was asking for direction, but the person by the roadside is telling him, if you want to go to Carnegie Hall and perform like the rest, you must practice and practice and practice, which means Carnegie Hall is not meant for everyone walking along the streets, even when you know your way there. Pastor, practice, practice. I know that I have 10 minutes to make short remarks, but in the interest of time, I'll probably take a shorter time. I want to do something very quick. Sam, please come. Elder Granda, can you please come? When you are a facilitator, you have the space to, you don't harass people, you just consulting. Let me see who else I can call. Janet, come. The reason why I have called my elder here, I have a very long history with my elder. It's very, very long. If we started talking about it, it will take the whole day. But people need to mentor people. So elder mentored me when I was getting into eldership. I actually refused because I was very young. I was not even 30 years yet. And I said, if you have people like them at church, why should I be appointed to serve as an elder? The rest is history, because there were people to mentor you, okay? And now we can stand here together. Janet, I just want to ask, when you look at the age difference between Elder and my sister Janet, of course you don't know the age difference, right? And normally, ladies don't declare their age. But Janet can tell us the age bracket. You know, age bracket is to say, I am between 25 and 30. So my elder good in mind, men don't mind, talking about their ages. So I want to ask a question. This was not planned for, okay? Because it's good to be spontaneous as well. Janet, your age bracket, and where are you here this morning? You can make the age bracket wide.
My age bracket, between 24 and 27. I'm not making it wide. The reason as to why I am here is because I want to learn, yes, from those who've gone ahead of me.
Those who, when they are seated, they see far. For you to sit there, you have to stand. That's what Pastor said. Okay. My elder, why are you here this morning? Your age, then people can get the difference.
The range is between 60 and 70. And of course, I've come here to learn because I want to know what's taking place, what the young people are doing, what we ought to do also as elder people. And I hope that I'll leave here thoroughly educated.
Thank you, elders. Can we clap for them? The reason why I have started this program like this, and you see I'm not standing up there, which is a high place, is at this level I become a bit more accessible to you and I'm informal. And the reason why I called Janet and Elder, and thank you for the concurrence in terms of the response that has been given, is that in life, we never stop learning. Actually, if you stop learning, you will become irrelevant in the business that you do. So, Elder, I am very humbled that you are actually here to learn this morning. I was very humbled to see you in the audience, through the screen when we were in Pastor's office. And this should be a challenge to all young people who are here. As men, we have been running a mentorship program here, and the ladies as well. And there are some young people who I have heard saying, I am not coming for the program because I know everything. When I was told that, I said, probably the one who has said that actually doesn't know very much, knows very little. So if my elder is here to learn, and the age bracket is between 60 and 70, and the age bracket of 25 and 27, so if you get the average of that, you can get Janet's age, then all of us have to continue learning in life. I want us to read a short scripture in the interest of time from the book of Proverbs. It's a text that we know. Okay, from the book of Proverbs 22, verse 29. The book of Proverbs 22, 29. And then I will make a short remarks based on this reading. And if there's anyone here who doesn't know me in the audience, my name is Jared Bosire. I sponsor our youth here at church and an elder of this church as well. 22, verse 29 of Proverbs. It starts with a question. Do you see someone skilled in their work? I will repeat. Do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings. They will not serve before officials of low rank. This is a very loaded scripture, and it fits this morning in terms of the career event that we have. But this is basically what it says, that if you're working hard and you demonstrate great competency and skills in what you do, your competencies, your skills will be rewarded. And you will get elevated to serve at higher levels. You will be soaring like the eagle, and you will not be playing in the league of chicken that are walking on the ground. It is the Bible that says it, that you will not serve before officials of low rank. Let me make a few, about 3 or so points, then I finish. I have always been of the persuaded opinion that when you profess a faith, and you even say you are a child of God, at the workplace, we must demonstrate excellence in what we do, because God wants us to serve with excellence, for when we do that, His name is glorified. When we are in school, that we work so hard and we are excelling, so that our Christianity and our relationship with God is demonstrated even through excellence in the affairs of this world that we engage in. And the Bible is very clear that God wants us to be the heads and not the tails. And the Bible has spoken this morning that if you are so skilled in what you do, you will serve before kings, irrespective of your age. Are we together? Yes. Let me tell you, when you serve so well where you're working, I normally challenge people that work so well and make yourself indispensable at your workplace. Make yourself indispensable at your workplace, such that when the organization has to lose you, they will struggle, they will negotiate, and they may even give you a promotion or two because you are moving out because they want to retain you. If you are the worker who, when you want to leave, everyone says, it's a sigh of relief, good riddance, it should have happened earlier, then you are in trouble. Are we together? Work smart, work so hard, make yourself indispensable, distinguish. You know, if you are in a marketplace and you are selling a product, differentiate your product in the market. Differentiate yourself at the workplace and don't be like everyone else. And that is possible. And I especially believe that because of our relationship with God, God wants us to differentiate our work through excellence in performance at workplace or even in school. Because of time, I want to use a practical experience, then I finish. So I have changed jobs only 3 times in my life. So when I tell a youth that I worked in one place for 15 years, they tell me, of course that can't be. I agree with you. But the warning is, I have also sat in interviews where I see CVs of people who have worked in one institution for 1 year, another one 1 year, another one 1 year. It doesn't matter how good your CV is. You are high risk, and I will drop you before the interview. Because interviewing is expensive. You don't want to bring someone on board who will stay in for 1 year. Then you start going through another recruitment experience. So I'm warning you, move, but stay long enough. Are we together? You will be told more of this. I wish I had more time, but so if you're moving 1 year, by what time do you become good at what you do at that workplace? Stay long enough to get refined, to get competent at your work, and as you move with skills. That's when you become a good person. So I worked in one place for 15 years. When I was leaving, the board asked me, what do you want? I told them, I don't want anything. I have had such a wonderful experience. They asked me, do you want a promotion? I said, no, I only want to move. Okay? When I moved, I was told, your job is kept. You go, when you want to come back, you come back. It is 5 years since I moved, but if I want to go back to that institution tomorrow, they will gladly accept me. Are we together? You work yourself, differentiate your product in the market. My second point. I moved from my second job beginning of last year, and it was a difficult experience to move, very, very emotional. Just before I moved, this is practical for you. When I was about to move, I was given, I say this with a lot of humility. I actually don't like talking about this in public, but we must take this experience practical. It must mean something to someone. When I was about to move, I was working in an international organization. I was given 5 positions, and I was told, now can you choose? So let me tell you what the positions were. This organization works in 100 countries. I was told one position I was supposed to be in charge of strategy and innovation, the whole network, 100 countries. So I turned it down. Another one, I think I was supposed to be a deputy global program leader, globally. I turned it down. So to cut the long story short, I felt it was God's will that I move. And I moved. Towards the end of last year, they called me and said, we have created a more senior position, can you come back? I told them when I go to institutions, I don't stay for 1 year, I stay for a little longer, so I'm not coming back. So what I'm trying to say with a lot of humility is work and make yourself a great asset in the institution. And the name of God will be glorified even as you move on. Amen? So I want to stop here, and I need Keldin to tell me how we are proceeding, because now I don't know what I'm supposed to do. But this is to challenge us that we need to work hard, excel, make yourself an asset difficult to replace. And there's this statement that I normally say, work and leave a mark on the sands of time, so that their footprints, when people come from behind, they will be told there was someone who once walked and worked here, and people will be remembering you for days to come, okay? Now, because Keldin is all over the place, of course he's here for now, and I don't want to disrupt his being all over the place because he's in charge of things. I want to welcome the next facilitator, Daniel Mainyo, will take us through the next session to facilitate the oncoming sessions. Thank you very much. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you, Elder. A round of applause. Thank you, Elder and Pastor. I think you've summarized what we are going to experience today, which is conversations around millennials and the future of work, trying to demystify the old myths and also try to adapt to the new changes in the market, and how can we do that. I think you've tackled a critical issue about millennials and working for 1 year, jumping to another job, working for another 1 year and jumping to another job. And I think it's a conversation we're going to have today, hopefully to try and understand what is the right amount of time before I can jump, or can I stay for 15 years as some of the speakers today are going to talk. They have stayed in organizations for 30 years, for 25 years. I'm sure you're imagining, how can I stay in my current job for 25 years? The people who've done it, how have they done it? And what made them rooted to those organizations for that long? So thank you for the introductions this morning and the devotion. I think it set a good stage for us to go to the next speaker. And as I said, today we are going to talk about millennials and the future of work. I'm sure Elder Sam is wondering what is millennials. We will try and demystify that today, and maybe to also understand how do you deal with millennials in the workplace, because I'm sure for your track record of 15 to 17 years in one place, somebody comes and tells you, I just want to work for 2 years, pay me so well. After that, I want to move on to the next job. And you're wondering what's wrong with these people. So today we are trying to understand that concept. And I'd just like to introduce our guest speakers for today. We had 3 guest speakers. Unfortunately, Phyllis could not make it. She got a last-minute emergency that she needed to attend to. But we are glad that the 2 other speakers are here with us today. And I'm going to just introduce them and tell you a little more about them before they come. Our first speaker is Mr. Tom Olwero. It's interesting that today I come to know that I report to his nephew. The place where I work, it was interesting when I saw Olwero, I tried to I have a boss who is called Olwero. So is there any relationship? He tells me that is his nephew. So I'm humbled to be sharing this flow with you this morning. Mr. Olwero comes from the Communications Authority of Kenya, is the director in charge of frequency, spectrum, and management department at the authority. He will tell us more about what these frequencies, spectrums, and everything are all about, because I'm sure you're wondering, for those guys who are not in technology. He holds a bachelor's of science in electrical engineering, light current option. Again, he'll tell us more about that. And he's currently just finalized his master's in business administration. He has 31 years experience in the ICT sector, both in ICT regulation, planning, engineering, licensing, and a last one called homologation, which he will tell us more about again. It seems like his CV has a bit of tech terms. He has attended several specialized professional courses, amongst them leadership, change management, strategy. These are typical things we hear in organizations every day, and will help us try to understand that. He has previously worked for 14 years in the Kenya Post and Telecommunication Corporation, where he was involved in the planning and commissioning of our beloved telecommunication systems. He's currently the chair of the Staff Matters Committee and the Procurement Committee, also a member of several boards, including the Institute of Engineers, Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, and the Institution of Engineering and Technology. That's a very long CV. 14 years, now 31 years in Communications Authority of Kenya. You'll tell us what's the secret. What's the secret of staying there for 31 years? What is different at Communications Authority? And some of them are looking and saying, maybe after this, he will help us get some jobs in Communications Authority. So be ready. I will share your number. But today, Tom is here to try and talk to us more about the future of work. And the future of work in the context that the future of work is characterized by overlapping universes. Pre-moderns, we have the moderns and the postmoderns, yeah? So you're looking at the people who are there before us, we are here right now, and there are those who are coming, who are much more agile, more than us. You think you're agile? Go talk to your sisters, your brothers, the younger ones, who now know how to use a phone, certain features of your phone which you don't even know that exist in your phone, but they're already coming to educate you on your phone. So we are looking at a universe where we have the pre-moderns, moderns, and postmoderns, all sharing the same space, but with severally limited resources. So this will, of course, necessitate automation and what we call artificial intelligence. I'm sure you've heard that name everywhere, artificial intelligence and automation, the kicking out people from jobs, that tomorrow you're worried if my company buys computers or digitizes their systems, I will not have a job because I was the guy doing records somewhere. So tomorrow if they automate this process, I'm out of a job. So we're in that world where automation and artificial intelligence is taking center stage, and client service to a great extent. So Tom, as you come to stage, I think I've set everything for you to try and come and demystify this future of work, and how do we, in these three stages, pre-modern, modern, and post-modern, how are we able to coexist? And with automation and artificial intelligence coming in on board, how do we get ready for that change so that we don't expire before our 15th or 20th year in a particular organization? So a round of applause as Tom comes to take us through this.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Good morning, young people. Good morning again. Yes, so I take this opportunity to appreciate the invitation to come and share with you what I've not been told by Daniel. How long do you want me to talk here? 20 minutes. Yeah, that's a short time because where I am, outside the authority, I do a fair amount of preaching, so I will not know whether I'm preaching or I'm talking, so you'll excuse me. Possibly what you could say is that as the Spirit leads. Would that be a fair assessment? Yes, but I will try so that I can give the other speaker time, because I had prepared quite a fair amount of stuff to talk about. In fact, I have two presentations to go through, but I will try and give each of them like 15 minutes, and I think that will be good enough. So, I think I needed to do a few introductions. My name you know. Here I realized in this church you talk about ranges. My age is 50 to 60 bracket. We are not going to be specific because we have to take a cue from the previous speaker. 50 to 60. Number of kids, 5 to 10. I'm just following. Smallest in class 8. Eldest 32. About to embark on her PhD. And I wish her well. Otherwise, basically, that's what I am about. And I'll start on the first presentation in the interest of time. The profile has been indicated, that's what it is. And I last changed job in 1986. That's when I went to my present employer. And I don't want to say I changed from Kenya Post to the authority because I didn't apply for the authority. When the World Bank recommended that there needs to be a regulator of the telecommunication and postal services, we seamlessly went over. So I don't think that's really looking for a job. We just went over. So those 32 years have been fulfilling, and there are no regrets. But it requires patience. It requires patience. Because as much as we joined at the graduate level, it's had ups and downs, but now here we are. We are retiring in the next couple of years, and we are surely going to retire. We are going to leave that for the younger generation to take it. I will not stick on that job. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is how to find joy in your work. How to find joy in your work. Since I'm in a church setting, I decided it would be good to just touch on this and quote some verses. I noticed also, Pastor also touched a few of that, like in Genesis. I noticed Pastor mentioned Genesis, and in my finding out, I found that really Genesis is about work. And we are talking about work here. Because even Genesis 1 verse 1, where it starts, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So that was some very creative work of creation. So this first verse in the Bible is talking about work. And then you find in Genesis chapter 2 verse 2, just to confirm that it was work God was doing, it says, and on the seventh day, God finished his work, which he had done. It's confirming that God was actually working. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work, and he repeats again, which he had done. So it was work God was doing, and he rested from that work. And this was creative work. And even hymn number 375 in our church hymnals tells us to work, for the night is coming. Work, for the night is coming. And this particular hymn refers to work actually 14 times if you count. So what I'm trying to say here is that work is honorable. Work is honorable. It's not just a drudgery. We have worked, and God worked while creation. So young people, we have to work. I've met a lot of young people who think, no, you don't have to work. You can do a deal and make 10M, make 20M. No, work for it. What you work for, you do not look round your back. You know you have worked for it as you are praying your God, and God has blessed you with what you get from there, and you are very comfortable. It might not be as much as somebody else's, but it is your work. It is your God. So you really appreciate more things than if I pull a first one on somebody here and start appearing different. So let's value work. And another thing is about when to work. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. That is John 9 verse 4, still talking about work. We must work the work of him who sent me while it is day. Night comes when no one can work. That's in the Bible. So work while you have time to work. It's going to reach a time when you cannot work. Ecclesiastes 12 verse 1 and 2 says, remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw nigh, when you will say, I have no pleasure in them. I have no pleasure in them. And verse 2 says, before the sun and light and moon and stars have darkened. Work while you can still see. They will reach a time when most of us will not be able to see, and that is not the time you can work. 2 Thessalonians 3 verse 10, if anyone will not work, let him not do what? Eat. Which means you have to work. There's no choice about it. If you don't like eating, then you'd rather stay without working. So work is honorable, and it's the justification to eat. I remember at the village, if you didn't work, when it reached time to eat, you were excluded. You did not work. Why are you coming around the table? And that will teach you next time when people are working, you don't hide yourself. And then, as I'm almost finalizing with this, in the course of the study, I found 2 texts in Proverbs that are almost exactly similar. Pastor, I had not known there are certain verses that are very similar apart from the ones that just say amen. And this was Proverbs 6 verse 10 and 11 and Proverbs 24 verse 33 and 34. This was a discovery because this one says a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a vagabond. Here is where they differ. One says, come unto you as a vagabond. Another one says, comes to you as a robber. And want will come to you like an armed man. So really, let's try and work. We do not want poverty to come upon us. If we are endowed with hands and with effort and with some knowledge to work, let's just work. And we are actually designed to work for joy. That's Genesis 1, verse 27 and 28. I won't read it. And what destroys our joy in work? It is in Genesis 3, verse 17 to 19. And there's also what restores our joy in work. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 58. And Colossians 3, verse 23 to 24. So I'll just finalize this small section by reading Ecclesiastes 9, verse 10. Ecclesiastes 9, verse 10. This is the final counsel here, which will get me on my 10-minute mark. It says, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. For there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol. Sheol, I suppose, is the grave to which you are going. We are all headed there. Let us do what our hand finds to do. Because in the grave there is no working. You just sit there, or you are just there. So let us work while we are still here, so that in the end, we shall not be like who? Methuselah. All we will say was that Engineer Meshach lived for so many years. Because that is just living. What did you do during those years? That is what is key. So that I wouldn't just be mentioned by the years I lived, which means I was just there. I was just getting along. So may God bless you with those few words. So now I'll go briefly for the remaining 20 minutes about the future of, 10 minutes. Thank you. I noticed Daniel laughing and I realized, no, we will try and assist each other with the Spirit. So we're talking about the future of work and how you can prepare for it. And the counsel here is that you can prepare yourself for the future of work by investing in yourself. By investing in yourself and what matters to you. Building a reputation as an expert in your field is the ultimate form of career insurance. I think Elder here mentioned it. You must build yourself as an expert. You must know your staff. You must know your staff. And knowing your staff, as he rightly said, you don't know your staff within a year. It takes time. It takes hours of doing something and finding out something so that you become the go-to person. You can be referred to, both locally and internationally. So that's an important thing. And then we look at work. We find that work, as we know it, has changed. There's been a change in work. And there is further change going on. And this is because human progress is inevitable. Human progress is inevitable, and that progress cannot take place without change. The Industrial Revolution required routine skills. Most of them are no longer sufficient to thrive and do better in the current evolution of work. We have gone through many revolutions, and it continues. And I want to quote here William Gibson, who said, "The future is already here. It's just not very evenly distributed, but the future is here." And we find that today, any field including legal, finance, biotechnology, ICT, nanotech, energy, healthcare, all these fields are open to revolutionary, transformational developments. There are always changes in the way things are done, how things are done, how manufacturing takes place. Change is always there. And it's up to us to be able to find out how to cater for these changes. And there is a scaring fact here that automation, which is going on, even right now in our organization, we have a BPR in place. Automation may put a third of 1 million retail employees out of work in the next 8 years. This is as per British forecast. So once you see automation going on, you must position yourself knowing that routine things are going to now change the way they are being done. And there's a major shift happening in the skill sets people need to remain relevant. You must always evaluate your skill sets because you want to remain relevant. You don't want to be overtaken so that you become a baggage and yet you are expecting a salary. Highly skilled expertise are becoming mundane thanks to automation. And so far, humans are vastly superior at any work that relies on creativity because creativity is not easy to automate. Entrepreneurship, also that cannot be easily automated, and interpersonal skills, and EI, that is emotional intelligence. Those are human attributes which are not easy to automate. So we must really try and cultivate those skills that have been mentioned. And the future is uncertain. It's even a lot more frightening when you think about everything machines can take away from you. And one of the most important ingredients to success in life and business is ability to adapt. We must be able to adapt as technology changes. and new trends emerge in a fast-paced digital world. Because as Pastor was telling us, you have to be able to use some of these things, even in institutions of learning. When we were in college, there was nothing that you go into the net and get your assignment. You would be given hard copy assignments. And even there were no laptops really, that you had to have a laptop to go to college. We would just go to class, get what we are getting. In fact, to get reference, we would have to go to the library, Jomo Kenyatta Memorial Library. And there you would find books, and then you would look at the catalog to try and know what you are getting. You see, things have changed. So really, if I was taken from that era and dropped here, I would be like, now where's the latest book? So times have really, really changed. And we have to adapt to these changes. Even when, as I said, the ERP was brought into our workplace, we now have to, we don't apply for leave manually. We don't apply for subsistence manually. All that has changed. And you have to change with it, otherwise you will be irrelevant. Global connectivity, intelligent machines, and new media. These are some of the most important drivers that are reshaping how we think about work and what constitutes work and the skills we need to be productive contributors to work. Without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning. That's a quote from Benjamin Franklin. So you can start preparing yourself for the future work by investing in yourself and what matters to you, as I had said earlier. Building a reputation as an expert, I had said that is the ultimate form of ensuring your career. So next we talk about the rise of the obsolete class. And another quote here from Ronald Reagan, former president of the US. And this quote is that status quo, you know, is Latin for the mess we are in. A lot of people who are concerned about the future of work have no idea what skills to study or master, because you have to know what is relevant. What do you need to go for? Nobody wants to waste time and money acquiring skills that won't be of use in the future. You have to look forward, get skills that will move you forward and that will be relevant. We'll gradually reach a period where some human skills will not be needed. Competing against robots is already a lost battle for humans. Because what's happening is that robots are getting better and they are getting cheaper and they're able to do most of the routine tasks. So certain sectors will be affected more than others. And we're almost reaching a point in history where artificial intelligence, which was mentioned, is suitable for doing almost all administrative tasks. We are just repeating what the previous speaker talked about, AI. If the key requirements of your job are repetition and repeatability, you need to examine yourself. You may not be safe because they could easily get something else to do that repetitive job that you are doing, and that would put you at a disadvantage. And then there are also driverless cars. You've read about them, and the forecast is that by 2040, there will be 75% of the vehicles in the road. Normally, people assume, oh, if I can't get a job, I'll do Uber, I'll do a cab. But you can see that that will only constitute 75% of the vehicles on the road. So that area, if that's your target area, is also risking being obsolete. So that's the sort of thing we need to think about as we are going on. And you can't fight innovation or disruption. You cannot fight innovation or disruption. It just creeps in slowly, and there you have it, it's there. But you can change with time to be relevant when the future is here. You can be superior at what you do. So another point is that a certificate is no longer sufficient to be indispensable at work. These people who sometimes move a year after another, they have the documents, but those are papers. It's what you deliver that at the end of the day count. Why are people easily outsourced, downsized, or freelanced into obscurity, while others have their peak of opportunities? So there are some people who can easily be replaced, but some others. I heard from Elder, it was a very eye-opening thing, that he's being offered opportunities. He's being offered opportunities when he's leaving. They are not quick to advertise because they know even by advertising, they may not get the sort of person they want. So that's the question. So being indispensable, that is the key. Being the go-to person. And this is about work attitude, your attitude towards work. How is your attitude towards work? Is it positive? Are you somebody who walks in and then you are busy streaming and watching other things while your work suffers? Most people are replaceable at their job, but they can do something about it. Do something about it so that before you are replaced, somebody thinks about it. And there's also a quote from Amy Hoover, president of Talent Zoo, who says, as they say, everyone can be replaced, but to be indispensable means that you are so good and efficient at your job that your boss and co-workers don't want to imagine replacing you. They don't even want to imagine it. She says, you are the go-to person they count on, the one who simply gets things done. What you know now may not be the only skills required to occupy your current position, which means you have to have a wide skill set. So that's the thing about skills. And then machines have no empathy. I've already talked about that, the robots, and how we really have to be. And then critical thinking. We have to have critical thinking. And critical thinking is a desire to seek, patience to doubt, fondness to meditate, slowness to assert, readiness to consider, carefulness to dispose and set in order, and hatred for any kind of imposture. So I won't spend time on that. Improve your virtual collaboration skills. That's also a point you need to do. And then adaptable is probably more important than talent. Being adaptable, being ready to change, accepting change and not resisting change. And Charles Darwin said that it's not the strongest of species that survived, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. So we are in an ever-changing world, and what mattered yesterday might not be worth a dime tomorrow. So we must accommodate change. And I'm almost done. Digital and media literacy, this is important. We are being told here about how certain phones are handled more adeptly by the young people. We should be able to move with the times, to be able to access information. Also, your creative intelligence skills are important. Creativity, that's why you find some mobile operators are ahead of the others. They know what people want. They know what sort of billing people want. So creativity must be there so that you can get market leadership. So finally, the question is it time to rethink your career? You need to start spending more time preparing for the future. Even when there are more important things to do in the present, and even when there is no immediately apparent return to your efforts. I think I'll pause it there. Thank you very much for being attentive.
Thank you, Tom. I think one of the greatest things that I've picked from your conversation is we need to work. Yesterday I was listening to one of the talks, and somebody was saying our generation right now, we are sleeping ourselves to poverty, where the young guys, we send CVs at night, then we sleep and wake up at 10 expecting the employer to have replied and inviting you for an interview. Then if they don't reply, you get mad and you start blaming God and saying, God, why? Yeah? But you know, you've spent 12 hours sleeping, hoping that somebody out there is thinking about you and they will respond to your email, not knowing that you have to wake up and actually go and work and seek and look for those people and have a conversation with them. So thank you for the eye-opener. And I think the members here will be asking you a bit of questions once we come to the panel discussion time. I would like to introduce the next speaker, who the name tends to be, it's a patented name for Lavington. So if he's not a member here, we might have to seek for legal teams to actually understand why. He's Engineer Kidenda. He's a registered consulting engineer, a fellow of the Institute of Engineers Kenya, and an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from, they say you have to start with there, so it's the University of Nairobi, and a Master's in Science in Traffic Engineering from Birmingham University. He is retired from public service after 37 years of service in various stations and capacities, including senior management as the Chief Engineer of Roads, Director of Industrial Training, and as the first Director General of the Kenyan National Highways Authority. Engineer Kidenda was appointed to the board of National Transport and Safety Authority, NTSA, on February 4th, 2019. So if you can forget everything about his title, just pick that one. He is appointed to the board of NTSA. Okay? So just stick on that. So in case you forget everything, it's just NTSA is the board member. So I will be sharing again his number. Only he accepts calls during the day, just between 8 and 10. So if you're caught up any other time, please, you have to seek different negotiation skills. He also serves as on the board for the Institute of Transportation and Development Policy, and he chairs the management board of Wigot Gardens Hotel. He's married with 2 to 5 grown-up children, keeping up with the conversation this morning. So he will tell us more about that. And just to introduce his theme, as we said, the theme today is Millennials and the Future of Work. Engineer is coming to demystify something that we've talked about enough times, and we still are talking about it, and that is mobility, supercomputing, intelligent robots, self-driving, and Tom has sort of broken down a bit of it, which is what is this fourth industrial revolution, and it's characterized by a lot of things, technology coming into space that are fusing the physical, digital, and biological worlds, and even challenging the ideas about what it means to be human. So he's here to try and demystify this and also talk about how we, the modern day student, can, tap into this opportunity. When we say we don't have jobs, how can we tap into this future that is coming ahead? And how can we prepare for it? So a round of applause as Engineer Kidenda comes to give us his thoughts about computing and intelligence.
Good morning. Good afternoon. I'm on the verge of talking both in the morning and the afternoon. What you've been told I'm supposed to cover is a mouthful, and I think Thomas dealt with most of it. I probably want to bring you down to earth and say, can we survive? Can we survive in what we are seeing, what is happening around us? A lot of the things which I jotted down have been talked about. Pastor mentioned quite a number in his devotion. Elder Bosire talked about them, and Thomas covered in general what we go through. As I was having breakfast today, I was thinking about coming here, and I was jotting down what I would call disruptions, which Thomas have talked about. My age limit is the same as Elder Kidenda's, 60 to 70. That's why behind me I have 37 years of public service. And I was remembering growing up, what did we used to go through? I thought of the SGR. For us to travel to Mombasa or Kisumu those days, you would go to railway station, line up to buy a ticket. If you were well-to-do, you'd book your ticket with bed and breakfast. Because the journey to Mombasa was overnight, and if you could afford it, you'd be given a compartment where Kenya Railways would bring beddings for you to sleep as you travel overnight. Today, you can book your ticket to go to Mombasa while you're here, and you will not need the bed and breakfast because they've reduced the journey from 13 hours to 4 hours. And it could be better. One day it might be 2 hours. That's a disruption which came. It's progress, but disrupted a lot of things. These guys who are providing you the bed, the guys who are cooking the dinner and then the breakfast, they had to look for other things to do. Tom worked in a place which also had a sister called Posta. How many of you have received a letter through the post office in the last 6 months? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many of you, okay, when we were in school, if you didn't receive a letter on the lunch table when the letters were being distributed, you'd feel sick. Sometimes we would even write to ourselves so that a letter can be delivered. So that we are with it. So posters, nowadays, maybe you people think there have always been Huduma centers. But Huduma center is a very recent thing. That was a thriving business where letters, do you people know what a stamp is? Stamps used to be issued every year, and there were stamp collectors those days. I don't know if they're still there. But that's the disruption. That's what we are talking about. So some of us, when we were growing up, said, I will work for Posta. I want to work for Kenya Railways. Kenya Railways, which I talked about first, used to have a line going to Kisumu, Eldoret, Taveta. If you drive along those lines today, you find some people planted maize on the line. Some 4 years ago, I was doing a road between Voi and Mwatate. And for a stretch of about a kilometer, I put a diversion on top of the railway so that vehicles could pass on what used to be the railway as we constructed the road. So it became a museum piece. But some of us went to high school saying, when I grow up, I want to work with the railways. So, even today, the things we are dreaming about, as Tom says, In a few years' time, there may be what we would call a no-go area because they'll have been overtaken by events. But it's not that all these things are bad that they happened. They were overtaken by technology, by innovation. And what some of us as parents, the problem we have with some of you who are the young people, I think I look around and I can associate with you with the young people. 60 plus, 15 to 25. Sometimes we think from our age time. We say, I want you to go to school so that you can be this and that. But like Elder Busira was saying, some of you, your thinking is, why do I want to be employed for 2 years? I've just said I'm a chairman of a hotel in Kisumu. Last week we were interviewing somebody, and he was telling me he was being paid very well where he has been. And I asked him, why did you leave? He says, I talked to my employer. Somebody offered me a 2-month contract to go and do something for him. And my employer could not understand to release me to go for 2 months. And I promised to come back. So I asked him now, okay, you've come for an interview. 3 months down the line or 1 year down the line, somebody will offer you a 3-month contract. What will you do? He didn't say he would not ask for the same, but he didn't answer me. If he wanted the job, he would have probably told me, I've learned my lesson, I'll not do that again. But these are the people we are dealing with. Your outlook to things are different. The conditions under which you operate are also different. We've just been told that whatever you do, do it with all your might. The Bible says that. Whatever you do, do it heartily as if you're doing it for God. Well, you can also do something for God for 1 year and move on. But do we want stability in our lives? So career is a choice. You choose your career based on a passion you have, based on interest, sometimes on guidance, sometimes I want to be like so-and-so. You look at the outside and you think, if I was like so-and-so, I would be well. You have to work at it. You have to develop yourself. Tom has already covered that. You have to do something which you enjoy, a passion. If you don't enjoy sitting in an office and you go looking for a job where day in, day out, you do routine sitting in the office, you'll probably not perform, you'll not enjoy it. The career is to enable growth. You grow, but you also serve. Career is not just for yourself that I am a career X, Y, Z. Not just for you, you have to serve. And our target should be to go to the top. Why go into something where you don't want to reach the top? Assist others, eventually be a mentor. Tom was talking of the go-to man. If people want to know, how do we do this? Can you be there? Can somebody say that you are serving God and serving the country where you are? Can somebody separate the service you're giving yourself and see that there's an element of serving the nation and serving God in what you do? I think Tom has covered that if you want to succeed, you need to prepare. And the preparation starts in school. You have to work. And Tom said work is noble. God is a worker. In fact, if we go to, is it Exodus 31? Exodus 31. Okay, we go to Exodus 31. I like it because we have a situation where God is speaking to Moses. What does he say? Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "See, I have called by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, of the tribe of Judah." Number 2, and I have filled him with Spirit of God in wisdom and understanding and in the knowledge and in all manner of workmanship. We're talking about skills. Are you skilled to the extent that you can stand before the Lord and the Lord can say that I have Tom and I've filled him with all the knowledge of ICT so that when you're building your church, call him. So when we say that what you do it as to the Lord, it comes to a stage where the Lord can actually pick on you and say that as we are doing Lavington Church, the contractor to finish it is so and so because I've filled him with the knowledge. As we prepare, not all of us can be academic. There are things which require that you read and read and read. But there are also other things which require maybe creative arts, maybe sports. These are also opportunities where we can excel. And you can see people who have excelled. So some of you, what I was saying is, when we talk to you sometimes, you can give us an example, but so-and-so didn't go to school and is doing very well. It's a common statement we get from the young people nowadays. Zuckerberg didn't finish his degree, but is Facebooking you people all over. Bill Gates was being awarded a degree somewhere recently after making billions, because he also decided not to finish. But here we are telling you if you don't finish your college, then you are done. So things are changing, opportunities are there. You can say you want to be like Lupita Nyong'o because you are gifted. But if you read about her, you might just find she went to Ivy League University. And that puts her on a pedestal. She can argue her case out. Footballers, there used to be somebody called Ebue, I think he's from Ghana. Those of you who follow football, have you heard about him? He was playing football, earning millions. And the other lady, called her a wife, who was the sole signatory of these checks he was getting in football. He's now begging in the streets out there in Europe. Because everything he had, this lady transferred to her name. So even if we follow these other channels, I still want to say that it is good to work hard in school, get the basic knowledge. Even if you're going to be a boxer, be a boxer who can manage your funds. Don't box and then at the end of the day, the money you've earned through getting blows is taken by somebody else. So let's aim to serve God, to serve the country, then serve self, have your spouse and family also do well. Decisions we make in career, guided by belief. So when you choose, what do you believe in? You're offered to be a general manager of a brothel, will you take it? Paying very well. We say we have a chain of them, Koinange Street, we'll give you 300,000 per month because you're good in accounting. Will you? Honor and glory for success you get should go to the Lord. Where you serve, where you work, where you want to develop your career, you will have choices to make. One of the choices which members of this church have to make, and which is a problem, and if you don't state it early in your interview days, you have issues with your Sabbath keeping. So you must be very clear. And the employers understand. And they also test you. They'll tell you, but you're a good person, we need you. You can work until 11, and then we release you to go to church. So you bite, then they'll tell you if you can work until 11, you can do the whole day. So you have to think ahead as you plan your career. What is God's is God's. Tithes and Sabbath, I'm sure you've heard enough about those. So choose a career path which does not lead you to compromise on your faith. In the book of Daniel, the people who refused to eat the best food were found to be the best at the end of the exams when they were done. They were the best in terms of performance. So, but important, whatever you are, if you are a Christian, if you are a good man, be a good man both at work and out of work. Let's not have duality where in there you are very good, out there you are something else. Can somebody give a testimony about you? Can somebody say, hey, there's something about this guy? As you plan for your career. So work hard. There must be effort. Excel to be an example. It's as if we sat with Tom and all the elders here to pick the words. And I'm saying be willing to go the extra mile. Accept challenges. Explore. Be adventurous, especially when you're young. Before you are tied down with kids, and if you're told go and work in Mandera, why not? Take advantage when you're young, so that when the time comes where you now say, I want to resist, I want to stay nearby, you can also argue that I've served in all these areas. Be the best you can be. Don't compromise. After all, as children of the King, you are destined for the top and not the tail. I think somebody has already talked about that. Is it Elder Bosire who read Proverbs 22:29? Where do you want to stand? Do you want to stand before the king or some lowly fellow? You can decide where you want to stand by taking what Thomas said, improving yourself, developing yourself, doing your best, aiming to be the best, the person to go to, keeping your faith, and growing so that you become the mentor, the person people go to. So when the MD is looking for somebody, they say, hey, there's a young man who is organized, who answers questions well, who is always on target. Be a person who can stand before the kings. How much time do I have? You know, after 30-something years, I can talk for long. How many more minutes? 2 minutes. I just wanted to say that it's possible that a time is coming when we will be able to say, I'll go to school for 2 terms, pick a competency, and it is good enough for me to come and do what I want to do. After 5 years, you may want to go back, pick another competency, and continue, because things will have changed. So there's a debate out here, competence-based education. Sometimes you may carry too much. especially if you are a man on the skills line. So I want us to be alive to that it may not be the norm of what we know today, but it might just be a good idea in future to consider, especially if you're sponsoring yourself. Why would you want to sponsor yourself to do everything which you need only a bit of it? So time is coming. As we look ahead, these debates around us, competency-based, the Huduma numbers and whatever, these things, all of them have a bearing on the future. And let's be alert. Let's be prepared that as we develop ourselves, we know what is possible. The last thing I want to say as a country, young people looking for the future. What is it? Where are we going? What documents has government put out there to guide us? You've heard of Vision 2030. You've heard of the Big Four agenda. So if you are planning your career, what is the government talking about? Are we talking about petroleum and oil? Can we guide ourselves to say that people will be required in that sector? Do we read and find out what are these skills which will be required there? If you're going to have food security, who are the people required? Last week, was it the Standard? What shall we eat? Students are not going for agriculture and science courses. That was a headline. Does that ring a bell in you? Does it prep you for possible career choices? Thomas talked of these disruptors, the technology area. Expansion of manufacturing sector. Is there room for human beings or is it only robots? So as you plan and think about your future, you need to be broad, understand what the government is doing, where the country is going, and choose those areas which are bound to grow. Not those areas where you go for 2 years, and then you're told now we are closing down because it's not the government's priority area. Universal health care, what does that mean in terms of careers? Those are areas which you can consider. So I will leave it there. If there's anybody who wants to raise questions later, we can talk. I met somebody who says the impossible can become possible if we persevere. The impossible can become possible if we persevere. Go against the current and do what is correct, not what is popular. This is the president of one of the countries in South America, Colombia, a country which has been fighting for 30, 40 years. He decided to say it is possible to have peace. And he built bridges. We are also talking of building bridges in Kenya. So the impossible can be possible if you persevere, go against the current, do what is correct, not what is popular. May God bless you.
Thank you, Engineer. I think it deserves another big round of applause. I think the key message coming out is that we are experiencing a disruption. So if you're here thinking about what's my next move, think about what's going to happen in Kenya in the next 10 years and strategically position yourself for that. Yesterday I was listening about the story of Uber and how they disrupted the transport system. And right now we have all mannerism of transport companies flying all over. We have Little Cab, we have Taxify, we now have Safe Border and everything, just replicating the same thing they are doing. And somebody was questioning what's the next move, because Uber cannot survive in a market where now Taxify has come in and cutting discounts everywhere. So they have to think about what's the next move. And if you look at part of their strategies, how can we start bringing in, they're called Hoovers, the ones that now you'll be transported from the top of Upper Hill to the top of Westlands, then you can come down the stairs and walk to whatever meeting you're having. And that's the disruption. So do you want to be part of that, or do you want to start your car business now and do the same thing they're doing right now? And that's the disruption we're talking about. And one of the interesting things that engineer also mentioned is a theme that even Tom talked about is work. And we are here as Christians. So the first thing is that we are Christians, so we pray. But at the end of the day, do you wake up and actually do what you pray? And somebody was saying there's a difference between the prayer of a successful person and the prayer of somebody who is just praying himself to poverty as well. And the difference is that the person who prays towards poverty is you wake up and say, God, please help me with that job that will pay me so well so that I can take care of my family, I can take care of my children. That's the prayer of poverty. And the prayer of success, this guy tries to connect it to the most successful people in the world. Their prayer was about, God, we have a big problem in Kenya, problem of healthcare, problem of water, a problem of access to typical things like transport and whatever. God, give me the wisdom and the ideas to be able to solve that problem. Because the day you solve that problem, wealth will follow you. Yeah? So the difference between the prayer of somebody who prays to poverty and the person who prays to success, the difference is that the successful guy looks at the opportunity and is able to wake up and go and do it. And something that engineers alluded to a lot in his conversation. So as we continue, we will have them come back to have a short panel discussion where we will do a lot of question and answer. I'm sure you're burning with questions, so please keep writing them. We've slightly modified the program, so we will have the team led by Nelly from Deloitte to come up and talk to us about CV writing. Nelly is a manager in the Human Capital Department of Deloitte and Touch. I last left it as Deloitte Touche. You added Touche. So it's now Deloitte and Touche. So if you are looking for a job, don't go there and just say Deloitte and Touche. Nelly has experience in talent management, executive search and selection, leadership development, executive coaching, training, organizational design. So if you look, she can give you a quote on coaching. If you require coaching, you can talk to her more. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in International Relations from the United States International University. I'm sure you are trying to understand now, how does somebody do international relations and end up in HR? Guy, you know, and you're like, there, now they do the wrong thing in university, and she'll try and demystify that. Tom also talked about it. You know, nowadays, nobody cares about your first class. They use it to shortlist you, and after shortlisting, the question they ask you, they're not going to ask you about what type of robots you used in your last project. That's not the question they will ask you. The question they will ask you is the one engineer asked this person. So you went for a 2-month job. Now, if you come here and you get another 3 months, will you leave me dry and high? You know, those are the type of questions they will ask you, and you'll be like, but I got a first class. They should have asked me, how did I end up getting my first class? Nobody's going to ask you that. So, Nelly, please, the floor is yours. We would like to know about how to prepare our CVs. Do we write all our names? Do we say we are married on our CVs as well? The people who argue that you should not say your marital status, do not put your picture on your CV. So please come and help us demystify these CVs and interview skills. A round of applause as the Deloitte and Tosh team comes.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Good afternoon. Daniel, how long do we have? 20 minutes. I'll use 10, my colleague will use 10. So my name is Nelly. He's said all about me. The good thing, or the interesting thing is, I do nothing to do with what I did at the university. So your first degree is really to get you that job, but the learning, the continuous learning that you do will get you to now specialize in what you want to do. So my degree has nothing to do with what I do now. Okay? We'll talk about that later. So we are two. I'm here with my colleague Maureen Waidima. She also works with me in the human capital. She'll come later to introduce herself. We'll do this presentation, the two of us, in 2 parts. And there is CV writing skills, just some quick tips on some blunders that we see as recruiters, and some interview skills as well. Some really simple blunders that we see that make you miss out on an opportunity that surely should have been yours. So we'll talk about that, so we can prepare you even as you think about attending those interviews. So I won't go into my profile because Daniel has already done that, but I'll just talk quickly about, because a lot of times when we talk about career, we think our education, we think our qualification, but I always tell young people, put God first, make God your partner. Elder Kidenda, I think, had stressed that beautifully, and they are put here, one from Proverbs 3:6, about trusting in the Lord all your heart and not leaning on your own understanding. That is even in your career choices. Adventists and even non-Adventists, anybody waiting for the second return of Jesus Christ, because that's where we all want to get to. And I don't want to say that as we are Adventists, those who are in the Adventist church are the only ones going to heaven. Jesus has a way where he's going to bring us all together as a family into the truth before he descends to take us home. But for all of us Christians, it's really to put God first in what we do. It is not about my first-class degree, what I learned, and how bright I am, but it's about also recognizing that there's one who sits above on the throne that we need to give honor and glory to. And also about Jeremiah, that I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for your welfare and not evil, and plans to give you a future. A lot of times we think God is not part and parcel of our career. Even that interview you're attending, you need God in it. I'm not saying don't go to school and ask God to give you a job. I'm saying after you've gone to school and you've prepared for interview, know that it's all for the glory of one person who sits above, and that's God, our Father. So involve him in your plans. Invite him to plan your journey for you. Invite him to choose that career for you and to choose that organization that you're going to work for. And the Revelation, the messages to the churches, now the Church of Philadelphia, that the words of the Holy One, the true one, who has the key of David, who opens and no one will shut. God desires that as his children, we be the top, like Elder said, and not the bottom. Not the tail, but the top. And it all takes, we're going to play a small clip later just to show you what a difference it can make to really put your heart to what you do. So as God's children, let's not be in organization or in the positions that God has given us to embarrass him or to shame him. I would cry if Adventists especially are known to be the laziest people in the organizations. That would break my heart. We should be known to be the most hardworking people wherever we are, and the best. Like Elder said, can God say, I have this person that I've bestowed all knowledge on ICT, for example, on, so you can bank on Nelly, for example. Can our organizations bank on us based on the fact that we are children of God? Yeah? And then on Proverbs 24:27, prepare your work outside, get everything ready for yourself in the field, and after that, build the house. Don't just wake up and show up on an interview, for example. Prepare for it. Prepare for it. Put your thoughts together. Don't show up like you were called in the night and you dressed up. And sometimes we get that with candidates a lot. Candidate sits in front of you and a senior person, and the way they're responding to questions, you're like, do you know what it means to be before a panel? So prepare. It's all about planning. Look at creation. God planned his work. And we can only learn from the Father who created us. If he can take time to plan this life, why can't we take time to plan what we want to do as well? And so we are going to talk more about that later. So I'll invite Maureen to talk to you about what needs to be on your CVs and what shouldn't be there. And then I'll come back in with what you need to do when you're now before a panel when doing interviews. And I hope our young people will benefit from this. Thank you so much.
Hi, guys. Hi. So I feel like there's been so much talking, and you guys must be so tired of just listening and taking notes. So I want to make this as interactive as possible. And just to get a feel of the demographics, just so I can, yes, we have a presentation, but just so to structure the presentation, how many are fresh graduates? Just fresh off of campus, you're seriously spamming HR inboxes left, right, and center, all right? Yeah? All right. How many have been working for about two years? You probably got in as a graduate trainee. You've worked for about 2 years, now you have a bit of experience. You can, navigate a PowerPoint presentation. You can deal Excel a bit. How many? 2, 3 years? All right. How many are leading a team? You're a supervisor, you're a team leader. You have a couple of people reporting to you. How many? All right, okay. And how many are HODs here? Giving people sleepless nights, right? Yeah, so it's a good demographic. So we want to cover what is in a CV and contextualize it in terms of your job level, right? Because we want to look at entry level, what are we looking for? At management level, what are we looking for, and that sort of thing. But just to break down a CV, regardless of your job level, in a CV. So the things that basically do CV, if I'm to put it in segments, I would say 1, your CV must have your biodata. And it must have information that if I'm going through your CV and I'm considering you for a job, I should be able to reach you. So I should have your name. And these things are really obvious, but I'm telling you, real life experience, people put phone numbers. And it's a nightmare when you call that number because we happily shortlisted you. And the person who's speaking is a house help. Nani anakujanga usiku, unaweza piga masaa ya saa moja before toke. What? I'm telling you, real life experiences, I'm not even kidding. So the phone number that you put, and even an alternative one, because things happen. On the day that you're being called for an interview, probably your phone was off and you're out of charge or whatever, make sure that the number you put, the person knows that if I come looking for Maureen, I know, oh, Maureen had applied for a job somewhere, this must be that organization, right? It's not just your random friend who, mnakwanga na miradi. Ati Maureen, alikuuzia simu? Ama ni laptop? Like, it has to ring a bell. So your contact is very important, and I speak this very seriously because people miss out on opportunities because you put that number you got, and then you changed, you moved to Airtel because they have nice bundles, and you forgot to change your contact information on your CV. So when we call, that Safaricom number that you put, it's going to someone else because Safaricom wrote you off and gave it to someone else, right? True story? True story. And then you need to put an active email address. So many people are choosing who nowadays. If you've decided Gmail is the thing, make sure an email address that you check frequently. Again, we have instances where we send out invites for interviews and a candidate sees the invite after we have sent the report to the client and someone has reported to work. And they're like, oh, please, can you please consider me? I was really enthusiastic about this job. No. Check your emails. If you put out an application for a job, be active in looking out for feedback, right? The last thing you want is to miss out on an opportunity simply because you didn't log in and check on your email. So make sure you put an active email address that you're sure you're going to get notifications even on your phone. Another thing to talk about is Skype ID. A lot of the times now we're moving from face-to-face. A lot of times you find you're in Mandera, you're in Mombasa, and we're trying to save you the cost of taking a flight to Nairobi and paying for accommodation, or you're working outside of Kenya. So we'll give you the option because now employers have that facility where they say you can dial in. Make sure you have a Skype ID. And while you're on that discussion, please, your email address should not be, those funny, catchy, sort of Instagram handle kind of email addresses. Make it very professional. If it's the first character for your name and your surname, very professional looking, email addresses, even your Skype ID, even the photo you put on your DP, the display photo, has to be professional. It's not as a selfie, you know, in the background there's like, you know, there's like appropriate photos for whichever platform. Sorry, my computer just locked, 1 second. If I'm moving fast, kind of signal me. So that's the structure of a CV. We want to see biodata. You know, like just looking at your CV, I can get you, I can reach you, and about your summary, a summary of your professional experience. A lot of times you'll see on the CV, there's a part that says, I hold 15 years experience, X number in management, in leadership. I have industry experience both in private sector, public sector. I have worked for this number of sectors. I've done this number of projects. It's like 4 lines that just gives me an idea of what you're about without me necessarily going through the entire CV, trying to see, okay, do you have experience in this? Do you have experience in that? And a lot of times people put career objective, then you talk about career summary. If you talk about your career summary in brief, it really is, it actually sells a lot. I'll tell you for free, when we're looking at people's CVs, because we know we're looking for this number of years of experience, we're looking for a bachelor's, we're looking for, you know, accomplishments. That statement has to be punchy. It has to be something I read and I'm like, this is a candidate, I want to pay attention. Now I can read the rest of the CV. But if I open and then I'm seeing your CVs all over the place, it kind of puts me off. But in all fairness, because I want to consider you, I'll still just go through the grief of just going through the CV. But just make sure that after you've captured your name and your data and all that, make sure that your summary is about 5 lines, basically talking about how many years experience you have, if you have a bachelor's or a degree, you know, speaking to the job that you're applying for. All right? And then the second part is on work experience. Now, a lot of times what we encounter is the JD that you got from HR, you come and bandika it over there. So it reads, daily, Hey, you know, it's basically a JD that has been posted, like pasted there. And you know what? If I'm recruiting a CEO, CEOs all over do pretty much the same thing, but there's specific things that we'll look out for all those CEOs. If you're in sales, all of you are supposed to churn out reports. You're all supposed to rake in sales. You're all supposed to, you know, like there's specific elements of each job. However, what we want to see in your work experience is basically what you've been able to accomplish in those roles, right? So say, for instance, you join this organization, you can talk about, if I can phrase it, I can say, I was headhunted into the role of a sales manager to come and revamp the sales department. I put in policies, I changed up the procedures of working, I automated a few processes here and there just to make sure, you know, like invoices are churned out on time, suppliers are paid on time, right? Those are things you have done. Yes, it is expected of the role. However, you're talking about things that you have actually done. So make it more descriptive of what you have done as opposed to if I went on Google and Googled a sales manager, how the profile will look. Am I making sense? Yeah? So make it very descriptive. Talk about, I came in and did this. So far, if you've been there for 6 months, talk about what you've been able to do in those 6 months in a way that speaks to the competencies of the role, right? And then, sometimes, you know, the organization you're working for doesn't ring a bell for everyone, right? So you might be working for a company that's not known. You might want to put a one-liner just describing the organization. For Deloitte, say I work for Deloitte and Touche, you know, global leader in providing professional services across the globe and things like that, just so someone is able to understand what that organization deals with. And also because sometimes as professionals, we recruit depending on the industry you're coming from. And that's why you see on, if you pay attention to adverts, they say, experience in, say, logistics is an added advantage. Experience in shipping and logistics, experience in telecommunications is an added advantage. When you talk about your organization and put it in the context of the sector that it's in, I'm able to see, okay, so this person has worked in consulting, so they've worked in consulting, and then I'll move to another organization that's in industry, and I'll talk about it, and so this person will have an idea of, you've worked in consulting, you've worked in industry, you've worked in telecommunications, you've worked in manufacturing. So I'm able to contextualize your experience in terms of the industries that you've worked for, right? And then another thing, your CV should be industry specific. What do I mean? If, say, you're an engineer, there's a specific way your CVs should look. One, engineers handle projects, right? So after you've talked about, the things that we've said are basic in a CV, and now you're talking about your experience, you won't start saying things like, I am responsible for this. If you are a resident engineer, say, and you're handling infrastructure for, I don't know, a consulting company, or you're working in the government, basically, you'll be drawing up plans, drawing up budgets for that project. You'll be doing daily site visits, for example. You'll be doing monitoring. You'll be doing stakeholder management because whenever you're constructing a road, there's all these people who are affected. So you want your CV to speak to the industry. So for example, if you're in admin, you want to show how relevant your skills are to that industry. So even how you structure your CV, and if I can go back to the engineering context, a lot of engineers who work in infrastructure will break down the projects they've worked in. Say maybe I was resident engineer, Kakamega Highway, for example. This project was this and this much, and this is how long this project took. And then you'll go ahead and talk about how you recarpeted Wayaki Way at this much, what your role. You understand what I mean? Like, make your CV industry specific. And all this information, you can actually get it from Google, because when you're writing your CV for your industry, so many people are applying for that job. So many. I'll tell you for free, we handle public sector recruitments. We get thousands, and we get all manner of CVs. And you want your CV to stand out, because how your CV looks is the same way someone will walk into this room and you're like, hey, this one looks rough. And then someone else will be like, hey, this one looks like they have it going on. You understand? So your CV represents you. I can tell you for free, I have been excited to meet candidates without even seeing their faces. I see the CV and I'm like, this looks like a good candidate. So it's up to you to come and massacre yourself at the interview, but at least you got your foot in, right? So make sure your CV is so good, at least you're getting attention. At least someone will give you a chance to come and defend your case. At least attempt to make it to the interview. Then in the interview, let's say the panel didn't like your dress code or those other funny things, which we will discuss. But your CV basically is supposed to represent you. And when you make it industry specific, you basically look like you know what you're doing, right? And then on the third thing, we'll talk about academics. Now, whenever you look at an advert, there's the purpose of the job. They'll say, the company is looking for a transformative leader who will come and revamp the department, probably put in structures if it's a new organization, someone who is going to come and drive change and things like that. There's a purpose for every role. And then they list down the responsibilities that you will be given, right? And that nice clause at the bottom which says any other duties allocated to you, right? And then at the bottom there, they'll say person specifications. And they'll talk about academic and soft skills. Now, when it comes to academics, if the advert says we are looking for a bachelor's, for example, since I started with an engineer, let's go with it. So we are recruiting for a general manager, infrastructure development for a big company, yeah? And then they put out the ad, they say we want a master's in business management or business administration or engineering and that kind of thing. We want We said we want a master's, we want a bachelor's in either civil engineering or any other engineering field. We also want you to have a license, a valid practicing license, yes? We will want you to be a member of which board registers engineers? Institute of Engineers, and then there's another one, EBK, right? They will list for you what they need you to have. One, why? Because they don't want an engineer who doesn't have a license, who is going to build a building, and then when it starts raining, you're seeing things leaking and things like that, yeah? There's a reason why they want those specific things, and that is what you include in your CV. So, look at the requirements. They're saying they want a bachelor's. Do you have it? Tick. Indicate and put it clearly. Say, I have a Bachelor of Arts, or let's say I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. You say the university you went to. Say, then you put a comma, you say University of Nairobi, and then you go ahead and say the year that you graduated. Right? So when I'm looking at your CV, I'm able to tell where you went to school, what you studied, and which year you graduated, right? So it's very easy for me to go through your CV and satisfactorily say, this person ticks my boxes, I'm moving them to the considered list. Okay. Another thing, when you're writing your academic and professional qualifications, there are these other nice ones we like to do for self-fulfillment, like first aid, like AIDS, communication, I don't know, because sometimes we sit in a panel and literally someone is wheeling in a wheelbarrow of certificates, and we only asked for 5 or something like that. All those others are nice to have. However, those ones just keep for yourself. Yeah? Because sometimes we waste so much time. I'm like, so where's your license? Oh, it's somewhere in the back. That one I went to, Japan for counseling training, and then I went to Korea for this. It's nice and it's beautiful, but it's not relevant, imagine. Unless, when you are going to apply for that engineering role, having first aid knowledge is important, because there's the risk of everything else that can happen. Maybe you need a counseling certificate on the side because you're going to work in a department where you might need to handle people. That's a plus. So think about it in terms of, is this relevant to the role? When you're in IT, a lot of people in IT have all this CCNA, all those certifications. Those are good. Those you can add. So think about professional certifications and accreditations that are relevant to the role. Sometimes you find employers start paying attention when you have those. They'll be like, oh, this person has a higher diploma in this. Oh, that's pretty interesting. Not so many people pursue that. So it's a plus, but it has to be relevant, right? And then we'll talk about hobbies. How many of you write, I like listening to Lingala as your hobby? And Rumba? And watching TV? You can say you like watching documentaries. That sounds nice. But watching TV sounds like you're a couch potato. So it's about how you structure your words. I can tell you for free, you can write your CV in a way, it has nothing, but it makes you look so good. You understand what I mean? It's all about phrasing your words. Another thing, in terms of hobbies, depending on your job level and the job you're applying for. If, for example, you're applying for a job in an NGO, and this is an NGO that they're focused on, impacting children's lives and, stopping child labor. Like I was reading another day where there's a part of India where they mine a mineral called mica, and mica is found in a lot of makeup products. In fact, all the makeup products. And so what happens is, because these families are so poor, and it's a typical case of resource scarce, where these kids, as young as 4, have to literally dig and go and pick the sand and the soil, and then they come, and then they have to sift through it, and then they take it. And by the time you're picking your nice, whatever, I don't know, like foundation or all these nice things, it hasn't gone through a really, really nice process, or rather the people who are behind the making of that product, didn't go through a good experience. And so for you, if you say your hobby is volunteering in children's home for, rehabilitated children, children who've been abused, children who've been thrown away, if this is an NGO that's focused on that, they start paying attention. Because maybe your experience does not touch on that, but your hobby touches on that. And so they feel that much as you're running accounts, your job is an accountant, you're doing bank reconciliations left, right, and center, but at the same time, you volunteer on Saturdays in a children's home for rehabilitated kids. Imagine you can get that job. Imagine. At the end of the day, employers also want to see someone who goes above and beyond what they're being paid to do, okay? So in terms of thinking about what your hobbies are, be wise, yeah? If you're in management, you're a director over there, you're considering, the C-suite level, consider playing golf. I'll give you a hypothetical example, not a hypothetical, an actual example. There's this one candidate who was being considered for a very big role, and so we were collecting references, and the referee included as one of the general comments at the bottom, they said, for your level of experience and seniority, this guy needs to consider playing golf. And why is that? Because that's where deals are made. When these guys are swinging those things, what are they called, clubs? That deals are being made, legit deals are being made. And so think about your job level and the hobbies that you need to pursue. And that's why you find a lot of rich people are in Muthaiga Country Club, Nairobi Club, because that's where their peers who have the big bucks hang out. They don't hang out in, Uhuru Park rowing boats. You won't find them there, yeah, unless it's a CSR project, So think about at my job level. If, say, you're in marketing, and there's an MCSK event, show up, even if it costs money. You can go to your boss and say, look, there's this event. I know the who's who of marketing are going to be there. People will be sharing ideas of the things that they're doing in their industry. I want to go and hang out with those people who are making big decisions. I want to be in that crowd. And you know what that does? It challenges you to get out of that comfort zone you're in. Because sometimes, you're always basically doing PowerPoints and pitches and and you think you're the best in the industry until you show up for that conference and you see the big things people are. Have you seen billboards outside here? So creative, you get. So think about, in my industry, where can I find people who are going to sharpen my skills, yeah? So think about that a lot, yeah? And then I'll talk about referees. You put in your referees as your referees. Random answer. Sorry? Yeah. So in terms of referees, who should you put? Ideally, you should put people who you've worked with at a professional level. Someone who has worked with you one-on-one, and someone who has seen you and is able to give an opinion on your capacity in terms of performance. Yes, there are these bosses that we don't like, that we don't get along with. Those are outliers. However, whenever you're putting your referees, think about people who I can give them a call and ask them, so how is it working with Maureen? And they'll say, oh yeah, Maureen is thorough. Maureen, I can rely on her. Maureen, I can do this. However, you do not want to put someone who you know might not really be put in a good word for you, even if you're a hard worker, to be honest. There are people who might not legit want the best of you. So the moment they hear you're applying for a job, and I give them a call, and I'm collecting references, they'll be like, hey, that one, hey. So, of course, I'll have doubt in my head, right? So just think about who you put as your referee. If you feel a bit ish about someone you worked with, those things happen, and people quit their bosses. That's a fact of life. You might want to put someone else, like the way as millennials, we have our side hustles. You did a gig over here, ask that person to write you a recommendation if you did a good job, okay? All right, and then we'll talk about CVs, do's and don'ts. I already discussed this. I said, don't copy and paste your responsibilities. please don't send your CV with inaccurate information. And let me talk about it. We see CVs that have gaps, like maybe for a year you are out of work, and then maybe from December 2018 to date you haven't been working. You have to have been doing something with yourself, right? So even if you've started an Uber gig, put it there. It accounts for your time. Those gaps kind of raise red flags, okay? So make sure there are no gaps. Make sure you've gone through your CV and you've read through it, and there are no typos. Some of the times we are petty. We actually look at CVs and we're like, yani, this guy didn't even go through his CV. So make sure there is no jargon. I see a lot with IT guys, a lot of engineers. There's so many things. Make sure that you're assuming the person who's going to read your CV might not be an industry expert. Eventually in the panel there might be an SME, but I, who is reading through your CV, I wouldn't want to be running a Google panel on one side of the screen and your CV on another side. So if you're ever gonna use acronyms, make sure to say, if it's, say AI, you say artificial intelligence into brackets AI. So that even if you use AI in future in your CV, I'm able to understand, yes, they talked about it earlier. Of course, don't make your CV too lengthy. Like I said before, we go through so many CVs, so many. And imagine if your CV is 7 pages or 15 pages, and then I have to start calculating your experience. Yeah? And then don't put too many photos, of course, unless it depends with your industry. If you're in the admin, front office, reception kind of industry, cabin crew, of course, they want to see a photo. Those are industries where they would want to see a photo. However, if you're an engineer, I think we want to see the roads you constructed and the buildings that you've constructed safely, right? And no typos, right?
Thanks so much, Maureen. Thank you so much on those skills for the CV. Maureen has done a lot of recruitment, so she knows the pain we go through in screening those CVs. I know we are running out of time, but there are things I really want us to go through, because even with a beautiful CV, and then you come and you up the interview now, a very good. So run very fast through some of the very basic view skill. If you can project the next slide, I'll really literally run through these. Please, if you're going for an interview, read about that role. I've had a situation where a candidate shows up and or you're calling them, and which role is that? Which organization? When was the advertisement? Please keep track of the applications you make. Read about the role that you've applied for, what they are looking for, and it's not a must, you must ask panelists questions, but if it's a good thing to ask questions, prepare that question in advance. Don't think through it and spend like 2 minutes quiet, the panel is waiting because you're thinking about a question that you want to ask. Read about the organization as well. You cannot be interviewing with Deloitte and you have no clue what Deloitte does. I ask you about the industries that Deloitte services and you have no idea. So just some really basic things. And be current, have current news about that organization. If there's something that they've recently done, it has been in the news limelight, talk about it when you know it's most current. We've had situations where a candidate says, oh, well done, congratulations, I saw you did this, and it's something that was posted online 3 years ago. Really. You just saw it, but you didn't even bother to look at when it was posted. So be very current, have current information. About the venue, I want to talk about that, and think through your skills and experiences because you need to put your thoughts together before you appear before the panel. Now, put the next slide. Different levels, at different levels, will require different interviewing skills. The entry level, you're fresh from university. We are not expecting you to tell us these huge, give us information about the experience or things you've done. And I know you're coming from school. But think of the things you've done even at school, even during your internship. Some call them attachment. In terms of what have you been able to do or accomplish at that particular entry level. So if I'm looking for a middle management person or a senior management person, senior management, I'm talking of CEOs, directors. I'm looking for somebody with transformative leadership skills, somebody strategic, a strategic thinker, somebody who can have a clear oversight over business and run a business. If I'm looking for a graduate trainee, I'm looking at somebody who has taken some leadership roles and responsibilities while at the university, who's done some very amazing presentations, who've done some internship that is relevant to what they've learned, and they've been given some good recommendations. So depending on at what level you are at, please have your staff at your fingertips. Sometimes I get disappointed when I'm interviewing for CEOs, and an example that a CEO to be is giving you is the same example that I would hear from a graduate that I'm interviewing. And you're thinking, you've done so much, why are you not talking about that? So please match your interviewing responses to the level that you're interviewing for. Don't give dilute examples. You're expected to give some proper, meaty examples of what you've been able to do. I'm sorry, I'm really rushing, because the most important slide, which is the next one, the questions. We have moved completely from the kind of questions that people would ask you in interviews. There were some really strange ones that I happened to have attended when I'd just finished university. Some panelists are not trained to interview, so they ask you questions that make you wonder, how is that even related to the job that I've applied for? But we've moved from those ages. Now, currently, we are using a very simple methodology, and most interviewers will use this. It's a competency-based interviewing skills. And there's one particular methodology that we use that is very common now. It's the STAR methodology. And I just want to explain that. Now, if you come before me in a panel, this is for all levels, and I ask you a question. Let's say we are dealing with a competency like leadership, because sometimes the panels will tell you, now I'm going to ask you a question on leadership, and then they ask the question. If it's about leadership, we use a very common, there's a methodology that can guide you so that you do your interview like somebody who is worth employing. Now, let's say we're talking about leadership. Think of a leadership-related situation that you've been faced with or you've had to handle. Leadership, a real-life situation, not what you Googled last night. I'll know if you're lying. I can tell it quickly. What you've not done, it's very easy to tell you've not done it. So think of a leadership, I'm just giving leadership as an example. A leadership-related situation that you've had to handle real time. It's very easy to talk about what you've done than what you're thinking or what you read last night. That's on the situation side. So the why. And then next is the action. So given this situation, what actions did I take as Nelly? We appreciate you work in teams. And a lot of candidates, they like responding like, then we did, and then we did. And I'm wondering, who did it? Was it your boss or your team? I want to hear more of, I did. So let me give you an example. I've asked a question. So share with us a particular scenario when you have been tasked with leading an organization and leading teams as a sales director. And then you tell me, there was this instance when I was the head of sales at Airtel, and my role required that I do A, B, C, D. So you've given me the scenario of what your role entailed, what you were tasked with. The next I want to hear is, so there was this instance when we were dealing with a particular really difficult project that we had to deliver, whatever project that was. And what I therefore did, I organized my team, I put them in terms of the skills that they had. I put a leader for each and every team that I had. The actions you took to be able to deal with that situation. The actions you as a person. Avoid we. We know you work in a team. It's okay. But I want to hear more of what you have done as a person. And then the result. So your interviewing response should never miss these 3 key points. The situation, or the task, or the responsibility, or even challenge if you like. Number 2, the actions you took to be able to deal with that situation, or challenge, or responsibility, or task. And number 3, the result. So given this situation and these actions you took, did you succeed or did you not? I want to know. And don't lie. If you're saying, and so during that year, in the 3 years that I was head of sales, I doubled the sales. You know, they were making 100 million per quarter. I made it to 1 billion. And you're telling me that year you did 1 billion, and I can see it's public information that they made. I'm not saying Airtel makes losses. I'm just giving an example. They made losses. You're lying. So be real, be very truthful. Remember, you have also God on your side. You've prayed. You cannot come lying, and you've asked God to come with you into the interview. So be very real. Interviewers are trained to pick lies. Even from your body language, I can tell you've not done it. You Googled, and you're telling me what you Googled last night. So I want to give an example, because you might be wondering, so how do I respond? What kind of a question? I want to just give a typical example. The next slide, please. So let's take a competency like planning and organizing. Let's assume that this role requires somebody who is very planful and very organized. And so it is a key or critical competency for this particular role. Let's say it's even sales manager or something like that, that requires somebody planful and organized. And so I'm giving you this particular example of a question. So you're before me, and I'm asking you, tell me about a time when you needed to complete several things at the same time. What did you do to get the work done? That's the question. Now, this is a sample response that somebody gave, and I want you to now use this example to give me where do you think the task is, where do you think the result is, where do you think the actions are. Is it a complete STAR? We call it STAR, situation or task for the ST, and then the A is the action, and the R is the result. And I want us to make sure every response has a complete STAR. Don't give hanging answers in an interview. So a sample response to that question is, this is a candidate giving, and some of these are real examples that we picked from our interview sessions. So every morning before the store opens, there's a lot to do to get it ready. So restocking, cleanup, taking markdowns, things like that. So last week, 2 people called off sick on the same day. So we had even more prep work than usual. So I prioritized the work based on what would have the greatest impact on customers, restocking, cleanup, things like that. Then we did the lower priority things during the day as we had time. The store was fully stocked and looking good when we opened. Remember, I've said, start with the situation or the task that you were faced with. The actions you took to be able to deal with that situation. What was the result of those actions? Now I want us to do this together in very few minutes. The competence is planning and organizing. That's what I'm looking for, a planful, organized person for this particular role. The question was, tell me about a time when you have had to complete several tasks at the same time. What did you do to get the work done? Now, I want somebody, where do you see the situation that this person has presented in this particular response? Where's the situation? Come on, there's no mistake, there's no wrong answer. Just feel free. Where's the situation? How are they introducing me to what they had to deal with? Read it out. Well done. That's it. That's what they were faced with. Every morning they have to do a lot of things. Now, once still, some team members called off sick. So meaning they had much more to deal with than usual. So that is the situation. Now show me what actions did this person take to be able to deal with this situation? What actions? Where is the action? That's correct. And the clue word there is I did. I prioritized. So there's so much work done. I'm 2 men down. I don't have 2 people. So I have to prioritize this and make sure I get to do first what needs to be done before the store opens. And what was the result? The store was fully stocked. So your responses in any interview session, depending on the competencies you're responding to, think in terms of that competency, what you've done around that competency, the challenges, the situation, or the roles and responsibility you've held around that competency, and what you've been able to do, the actions you took as a person, and the result of your action. That you must not miss. So a lot of times we have candidates giving hanging stars. They've given you the situation, the actions, there's no result. Or they've given you the situation and the result, there is no action. And so a panel has to ask follow-up questions to get the information from you. Don't wait for the panelists to dig for info from you. Give it to them straight on and be the smart candidate in front of the panelists. Does it make sense? So when you're responding to questions, please, that's what you need to have in your mind. And that's why I say, keep it real. What you have done will be so real. So real, you don't even have to think through it. If you did something and you are tasked with something at some particular point, it will be at the top of your mind. And candidates normally start with, there is this instance when I was the manager in this particular organization, and there was this time when you were faced with this. It is here. You don't have to think through because you've done it. Next slide. It was just to show you. We've actually covered the back a little bit. Yeah, back a little bit, and back again. Yeah, so that's the situation. Next slide. That is the action they took. Next slide. And that was the result. Flow like that. Next slide. Avoid the woods. Responding and saying something like, you know, I would, in terms of planning and organizing, I would do this, and if I have two mentioned, particularly that morning, I would do this, and then I would create this scenario, and then I would call these people. We are not asking about what you would do. We're asking about what you have done. It is about what you've been able to achieve, and therefore what value you bring to our organization if we were to hire you. So avoid the woods completely. No hypothetical answers. Make it practical. Keep it real as much as possible. In terms of etiquette, just quickly, we've talked about the company. Please research about the remuneration, because in questions like how much would you want to be paid, you'll not avoid them. You'll be asked. So research about that position, how much it pays, package yourself in terms of what you're earning, and then do some markup, of course, something that would make you move to the next. And then look the part. Please don't show up in an interview in a red suit for men. Just corporate colors, subtle, quiet, polite. And be neat. I cannot be interviewing a CEO who shows up with dust on the shoes. With a beard, you can't even shave, really. Just look the part. If I'm looking for a CEO, I'm looking for a CEO right there in front of me. Look the part. Communicate early if you're running late. Don't show up 30 minutes late and then you say there was traffic, sincerely speaking. Communicate early if you're going to be late, if you're not going to show up. Your phone, we won't talk about that. That's too basic. Prepare the question to the panel. I've talked about that. Answer questions truthfully. Be brief and straight to the point. Don't give... Sometimes you ask a candidate a question like, tell us about yourself. My God, they start from nursery school. Nursery. I'm interviewing a CEO. And I'm waiting to know what nursery schools they attended. Start from university quick. Graduate in this, master's in this, PhD in this, and then after graduation, I joined this organization as this particular role, worked there 3 years, this is what I accomplished, then this, period. Don't give stories. And then write the question down. It's good to walk in an interview session with a notebook, but as you're writing, imagine I've asked you a question, then I lose you. You're busy writing down what I've asked. Just some clue words that can remind you of the question, because some panelists are not trained. They ask you multiple questions at the same time. You're bound to forget. So just have a notepad where you write some words to make you remember the parts of questions they've asked and you need to be responding to, while you're still keeping touch, eye contact with the panelists. Don't be focused on your notebook and forget the people who are interviewing you. Then, it's good to ask them to repeat if you haven't understood. It's not a crime. Come again. I didn't get that bit. And then the panelists can repeat. And then show enthusiasm to be part of the organization. You cannot be bad-mouthing an organization and you're being interviewed to work for them, you know. And then thank them at the end of your interview. Now, the don'ts. Don't come and start reciting things you've read in the website. They've put it there for you, but don't come. You know, they ask you about even something about the organization. You want to word what you read from their website. Just show that you know something about them. Be real. And then don't speak ill of your former boss. You want to badmouth. Where do you want to live? Oh my God, I have a boss. My goodness, if I could live even today. I'm thinking you're going to do the same to us if you come here as well. Don't start bad-mouthing your former employer. Avoid slang talk. I have had this even at CEO level, very sad. They break into some language and you're thinking, my word, keep it as formal as possible. As formal as possible. Do not use too much familiarity in an interview session. Even if you know somebody in the panel, keep it as formal as possible. So slang language, Kenyans, we are very good at that with our sheng. Avoid that. Please keep it formal, straightforward English. Unless you're being interviewed in Kiswahili. But please keep it formal. Avoid familiarity statements, and then you know Engineer Kidenda is in the panel, and say, Engineer, you remember, it's not time for engineer to remember those days. It's time for the interview. You're being interviewed. Forget about engineer. You know him. You can catch up later. But now, it's interview time. I know you know this. It can sound about demeaning, a bit demeaning to your panelists. So don't assume they know. Tell them what you want them to know. Leaning back, legs up, swinging chairs. Some arrive and they remove the jacket and they put, you're already feeling so bossy. Please sweat just for that time. And then when you step out, remove your jacket. But be formal, because it shows arrogance. You've arrived in somebody's office, you've removed your jacket, you've put it, and sometimes it's not one of those jackets you want to see the inside as well. You're showing us what you're wearing. Keep it, just keep it formal. It's only an hour, for heaven's sake. And then you'll be out, and you won't die of sweat just for that short time. When you walk into an interview room, I've been in a board interview. A candidate walks out, and even the way they're about, and they're shaking everybody's hands and going around the room, and the way they shake your hand, man. You know, when you walk into an interview room, just give a polite greeting. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Stand and wait to be ushered. Don't walk in and sit. Wait to be ushered to a seat to sit. Give a polite, brief greeting. If the panelists extend their hands, then please shake their hands. You can now shake their hands. But also, shake hands politely. Politely. We know we want to show you have energy, but in shaking of hands, keep it subtle a little bit. And then, if they extend their hands to you, please do. You can go ahead and greet them. But the first one is, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and then wait to be told the next move. And then when they're introducing themselves, please take note so that you address them by name. And the person who asks you the question, address the person. Don't forget the rest of the people in the room. When you're looking at Maureen, you're looking at this person, but also addressing the person who asked you the question so that you're in touch with everybody in the room while also still focusing on the person who asked you the question. I think I need to keep it there unless there are any questions, because the rest will come during the panel session. But forgive us, we've had to really run through this. The list is not exhaustive. This is just the common blunders that we have seen several and have made people lose opportunities because of that. And I'll close by giving you two typical examples. My brother-in-law, where he works, they were hiring for a CEO. And they were narrowed down to two candidates, best. They couldn't even choose who, just two of them. But there was one guy who was really stood out, and he was obviously going to get the job. And he was the number one. Although they followed closely, but he was the number one. So the day is now meeting the very final person, the board chair, and he comes, and the first thing, he removes his jacket, he sits, pulls his seat backward, he's swinging his seat, and the chairman is looking at me like, what is going on here? And I have the job now. I have the job. He didn't even realize who he was talking to. He lost the opportunity like that. He was supposed to pick his offer letter. He lost it. They took number 2. So don't count until you stand on the dotted lines. You can lose it. So just a little misbehavior, and to show pride and arrogance, please be polite and respectful. And another instance, now this was a brother-in-law, a close relative. And he had arrived for this interview, and he had really traveled a long distance. And he even missed the venue, so when he arrived there, he's panicking, he's sweating, but a sharp guy, I'm telling you, very sharp man. He's now asleep, but he arrives there, his shoes are dusty, and he goes into the interview, and he's called in, he's done the interview. Yes, he has the knowledge. And then now he's told, okay, you can hold out there as we deliberate. And the people are actually talking about him, and he could hear. Do we really want to trust this guy with all this money? He comes, he's dusty, he's sweaty, even the way he looks. Is he going to manage this portfolio? We might just lose money. I'm not sure. Panelists, I'm not comfortable. He was the right person for the job, but the way he showed up appearing, and he's the one who was sharing with us this story. Can you believe I lost a job and I heard them talking about me, and he really felt bad. And it wasn't anything of his making. It is the circumstances. He got lost, shuka, walk. It was terrible. So arrive early so that you even have time to clean your shoes if you have to. If you've not gone there driving, so you are presentable before your panelists. Let's leave it there because we don't have much time. But if there's another time that you invite us, we can talk a little bit more and even have mock interviews at different levels. But for now, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Round of applause. A round of applause. They deserve another big round of applause. My situation, I have exhausted my time. I was supposed to get you out here by 1:10, so that's my situation. My action, I'm going to ask you for 20 minutes, yeah, so that we do question and answers. My result is that you've accepted, and therefore I shall proceed. So you see, I've applied the STAR methodology. Just don't do that in an interview where you ask for more time and you give yourself. You might lose the interview as well. We are going to do a quick Q&A. It will be part of the panel discussion where we get to ask those very critical questions that you wanted. I'll allow at least 6 so that we'll do them in rounds of 3-3 so that the panel members can address them. But before I do that, the ICT team, if you have the mics, there are some here, so you can strategically position yourself to help. It's more here. So as we set the stage, I'll ask Nelly this question. I'll set by question number 1. There's this myth about a picture on a CV. There's somebody's picture, there's writing about your religion or marital status. What's your take on it? Because the biggest thing about interviews or CV interpretation is perception. You know, you can put your photo there and you think you're beautiful, but to the other person you're not. And especially if they're the people going to sit opposite you in the office, you might rule them out and say this person does not look good. The other issue about religion is the stereotypes around different religions. I would say I'm this type and this guy doing the short list is of a different religion. I'm like, no, I don't want this type of a person. And of course, marital status. You might put there that you're married and yet this person does not like working with married people. So how do you address some of those things? The other issue was on personal branding, especially when you're saying, what is that short description? I see a lot of CVs with people saying, I am honest, I am diligent, I'm a hard worker, the typical things. What are those things that you look for? We spruce up our CV so that next time we send to Deloitte and Tosh, it will be something that can at least get us to the door. Then the last one is this question about what percentage of the requirements should I meet? Because for sure I can't be 100%. I won't be having the bachelor's, the master's, all the work experiences that you've listed. And there's always this analogy that ladies tend to wait for at least 80% to apply. Men apply even when it's 20%. And then we say, roho juu. Hizo zingine tutapatana mbele. When they ask the question, as we will, fumble. But at least I've gotten to the door. So I'll apply for a job that I know I've met only 20%. Yeah? So what is that good percentage that will at least get me to the door? So those are my questions as I set the stage for more to come. So if you can please quickly look at that and then we pick the next set of 3.
I'll be very brief. Okay. What's on your CV, and Maureen covered that. Religion, it's okay to indicate Christian, Muslim. It's okay to indicate because depending on what role you're interviewing for, where it's going to be, there's no sin in that. Details, please declare during your interview, and Elder mentioned it, and I'll give my own experience. My first job after I graduated, and I'd gone through all the interviews, and I could see, sometimes you can tell from the panel, even their body language, that this job actually is mine. And so at the end of the interview session, that was my interview session 3, the final one. And the director asked me, so is there anything that would make you not take this opportunity if we gave it to you? And I said, yes. And they all put down their pens in shock, and they looked at me. And he asked, what is that? And I said, I put in my CV that I'm a Christian, but I'm also Seventh-day Adventist. Now, what that means, I'm a Sabbath-keeping Christian. So if this job entails working during Sabbath hours, which to me is sunset, Friday to sunset, Saturday, I will not be able to. That's the only thing. But my love in my heart is to work for this organization. And they look at me and say, wow, Nelly, no one will ever call you to come here and work on Saturday. I made it known. Let me tell you, when I went into that organization, we would travel outside the country, and most flights were either on Saturdays going or Saturdays coming back. My MD would give instructions even to travel agents. We are 7 of us coming to Rwanda, but please, one of us cannot travel on Saturday. One of us cannot travel on Friday evening. She would give instructions because I declared at the interview. Don't hide so that you get the job, then now you want to start maneuvering. God, now you need to sort me out. Make God your partner from the beginning. So yes, put on your CV, I'm a Christian. But the details, please declare at that interview so that it's known what your stand is. So that is married. And again, I said, remember page 1 is really important for you. So don't fill your first with name, marriage, age. No. Your name and contact can be the first at the top there. The rest is your brief profile. And brief profile is not about I am honest, I am integral, is about what you've done in summary. Your honesty, we can get that when we're interviewing you and later when you're doing your background check. I want to know what you've done, what you've achieved, and your experience. And then now you go into the job details. And when you're listing your experience on your CV, as Maureen explained, a brief description of the organization, what you were tasked to do, what you achieved. As punchy as that, up to the end. Then your hobby, then your references. Your academic can also come down after your experience, by the way, your academic, because we fill a whole page with all the schools you attended up to primary. I haven't seen what you've done. I have 8,000 CVs to screen through and shortlist 10 people. That's how serious it is. So make sure your page 1 captures what I really want to know with regarding that particular. Have I answered question 1 fully? Question 2 was about? Photo was the last one.
I am honest, which you've answered.
Okay. Okay, now photos, please avoid putting your pictures on your CV, unless you're applying for air hostess role and they need to know how you look, and you want to show them that you're beautiful beforehand. Avoid. We've seen photos that put you off even before you read the CV. If it is a photo, please, can it therefore be a proper one, a professional one? There's some with some poses, and ladies, we have our cleavages, and I'm thinking, I'm sure you could get a better photo. Half naked, and it's on a CV. Please, if you can, avoid putting photos on your CV. First, that takes like almost half or quarter of your page. If you must, and the role requires, let it be a proper professional photo, not any other photo, not a selfie you took in a party. The background, and make it professional. That we cannot emphasize anymore. Now, let's talk about what percentage you meet criteria or not. As recruiters, we do both private and public sector. Public sector have some very stringent requirements. They'll say 20 years experience, Chapter 6 requirements, and those are requirements. Remember, the roles are open to everyone. So if they want your ESCC, they want your credit bureau clearance, your tax clearance, your police clearance, you must have. There is no compromise on that. And so look at the requirement of the role in the advertisement and make sure your CV captures that. Some candidates, and you really blunder, guys, you really blunder. You have 8,000 CVs. I'm looking at the degree, yes. Master's, yes. Professional, I can't see anything. Membership to a professional body, I can't see anything. Then I say, move to regret. Then later, you've screened through and you're like, but we only have 8 candidates. Let me now dig again and say, but this person has a very good CV. Let me give a call and say, I noticed you didn't put your professional membership. No, I have. I'm a member, very valid member. And I'm like, it's not in your CV. So if I have 8,000 people, how many people am I going to call to confirm that information? Let it be on your CV. Go through the requirement of the advert, put it on your CV. If whatever academic professional are required, please make sure, including the membership, make sure it's there. And then in terms of experience, if it says you're applying for CEO, they say 15 years of experience, you tick all the boxes and maybe you have 14 years. Private sector works differently depending on the portfolio you are handling as CV. Public sector sometimes are very strict. If they want 20, they want 20 years. And so if you tick all the boxes and you apply, I'm not saying don't apply, but now depending on how our screening and selection criteria is going to be, chances are, of course, we will be looking first at people who meet requirements 100%. So if you have it, put it there. But that's not to say you should shy away. We have private sectors. For example, when I applied for my role, I didn't have the years of experience, my first job, that they wanted, but I applied because I believed and I knew in my heart I could do the job, and I got the job. So it really depends, but I just want to warn you that public sector, and given the kind of regulations we have, please make sure your things are in place. If you know you need to have a license, you need to have a membership, please make sure you have them. You cannot be an engineer, not a practicing engineer, without a license. You cannot be an HR person with no IHRM certification or practicing license. And they've said they require your ESCC clearance and tax clearance, and you're giving me tax clearance certificates for 2015, and you are in 2019. Please put your things in order. Don't rush to put application and then miss out on the information. You rather put in the last 2 or 1 day, but you have everything in place.
Thank you, Nelly. So I'll take the next 3 burning questions. I'll start from, he has raised his hand first. Then number 2, who is the third one? You say your name, what you do, and then you proceed to the question. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. My name is Alvin Mokaya from Nairobi Central SDA Church. My question is directed to Tom Olwelo. I hope I got the name right. You said that automation cannot challenge creativity, entrepreneurship, and emotional intelligence. And for me, I'm passionate about entrepreneurship. And my question is, how can you know if you are actually meant for entrepreneurship? As young people, sometimes you really could be wanting to be an entrepreneur, but maybe it's not the thing for you. So how do you know that these are the traits that you have for entrepreneurship, and how can you hack it? To Engineer Kidenda, you also said that you sit in a board in a given hotel. So I think it links a little bit to entrepreneurship. So I would want to hear your take on entrepreneurship. One you think that can help us. Then to Nelly, I would love to hear what is your take on leadership coaching, because you are mentioned as an expert in that field. It would be a disservice if you got out of this congregation without mentioning a little bit. It's a subject that I'm also very passionate about. Thank you for the chance.
The second one is, he has a diary. I hope you have one question.
Really? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Josephat. I do entrepreneurship as well. Now, my first question goes to Engineer Kidenda. It's on integrity. Without doubt, we are aware of the situation in our country, and you've been in the public sector for 37 years. Did you meet with integrity issues, especially in your area, and how did you deal with them, and what would you advise us on that? Then I discovered as well to both Tom and Engineer Kidenda that you both have kind of survived in the industry with your first degree, that's bachelor's. What made the difference? Today, it's tending to be, for you to survive, you must have a master's or something. How comes you rose to so high in your careers with your first degree? Thank you.
I think we'll proceed with that. I would like to invite Tom to tackle the first question. How can you know you're meant for entrepreneurship, especially with your comment on automation cannot challenge creativity? I would wish if you can do max 1 minute so that we can be able to get these guys up for lunch. Some are already looking at me badly.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. Bwana Mokaya, what I meant by automation cannot challenge entrepreneurship is that with certain soft skills, certain changes will not come to affect you. Like if you have that entrepreneurship knowledge, which you will know because you will have had a startup here and there, and you will have done certain initiatives, you will have done certain small, they are calling some side hustles. You know you are an entrepreneur. And I'm saying with that, now you can be able to survive that wave of automation because that is something intrinsic that you have, which will be able to make you survive the wave. So the other question from Joseph is how we survived with the first degree. Of course, the line where we were, there were not many people with that advanced degrees, but it came about with time. It's these changes we are talking about. Change came about, and of course, we are also rising up the ladder, and it came about that surely you required an advanced degree to hold certain positions. And it was a real threat. And it's just about positioning, as we are saying. You have to position yourself. You have to see things changing around you, such that if you have a first degree, then a lot of people don't take you seriously. They believe you can't get it, but possibly just because you've not put yourself to get it. So we quickly looked at the environment and realized that that's what we needed to do, and we went for it. So you must scan and see where are things going, and then you position yourself appropriately with what you can. Like nowadays, things are still going up. It will reach a time that you have to have a PhD. You see it in the universities. To be a lecturer, you have to have a PhD. So if you're in the education line, you have to quickly rearrange yourself and prepare yourself with the appropriate qualifications. Thank you.
Thank you. Entrepreneurship, the hotel I run, the genesis is that my wife, myself, our children, we have kept cuckoos, we've sold mandazis, we've sold tie and dye, we've run a butchery, we've run a lorry. Now, all this we are doing from a house in Kisumu. We've converted that house into a hotel. So we did not wake up one day and say, now, it's now entrepreneurship. It's something which has developed over time. And like he says, if the traits are there, you'll start. Even in school, when you're there, some people are reading, but others are even loaning you a book at a cost to read. And that's how it starts. So some people start entrepreneurial skills early on. On the issue of the degree, I got my master's 5 years out of college. So in our line, it was maybe a little bit more demanding. And it became a requirement, like they say, when you read the person specs, you have your bachelor's and a master's. Then you're required to have membership, registered, post-registration experience, not just experience post-graduation. So all these things. And what you need to do is to plan. I talked about planning for your career. What is it that will be required of you X years from today? If it's something you can get it. Integrity, yes, integrity is an issue. And we meet it every day. There are challenges. I worked as the DG of Kenya for 6 years. There are a lot of decisions I had to make. There are a lot of even contracts which we had to cancel because we didn't agree on some of the terms between me, my bosses, and even some of the people who are financing. So it's a common challenge, but you need to know, why are you here? What do you want 5 years after you've left? My prayer is that I did things correctly and I don't have to visit Haji. I've been out about 5 years, but even if he calls me, I hope that if he calls me, because in government you're told keep the documents for 6 years. If you procure, the documents must be kept for 6 years because there are still questions, there's still audits. Even if I'm called, I'll convince them that what I did was good and for the good of the country. So integrity issues come in different ways, but you have to challenge them, but you also need to define fairly early in your work, what direction do you want to do? What do you believe in? What is it that breaks the deal? I hope that helps you and all of us.
Executive coaching is such a big thing. Maybe next time, Daniel and Tim, we can talk about that. But learning, or let me say learning, as a talent or as a resource, the stages of learning and the most critical way of learning. Actually, we have one framework, the 70-20-10. We've heard about that. So we are, before you had to have gone to a certain classroom, even if it's at college level, to be able to do certain things. But now classroom learning has only been given a 10% level of importance. 70% we learn on the job. And that's using interventions like coaching. And coaching is, in basic terms, is really to just help you maximize or realize your full potential. Those things that probably are not technical or you did not learn in class, but you now need those skills to be able to deliver on your job. Have you seen very sharp, brilliant, even CEOs that are fired? Have you ever asked yourselves why? We have a slang in Deloitte. We hire for skills, we fire for behavior. So you can be the genius, the brightest lawyer, engineer, doctor. But have you seen people who land in organizations and people just leave? Organizations lose talent because of them. They do not have certain skills, because to run a business, for example, as CEO, you don't just need your finance skills or your engineering skills. You need leadership skills. You need people skills. So you need the soft skills that will make you balance with your technical skills to be a holistic person that can run an organization. Because you don't just want a CEO who can deliver on numbers, but a CEO who can work with people to help deliver the numbers. And to be able to work with people, you need to motivate them, you need to retain them, you need to make them grow, you need to make them happy to stay with you. So coaching is the other part of learning, which is now becoming really critical in most organizations, to help you acquire and achieve those skills and to drive you away from waiting to be told what to do or to go to class to learn certain skills, but to be able to now start thinking solutions yourself. The myth or the belief in coaching is that all of us, as we are seated here, we have our potential. We have a potential to deliver and do certain things. We just need something to help us maximize or unleash that potential. We have the solutions to the problems that these organizations have or are looking for. We have those solutions. But we need that, we need coaching to be able to actually think, because a coach will not tell you, you go to them and say, I've been CEO for 3 years, and I'm struggling with this, and I'm struggling with that, and then a coach starts telling you, now what you need to do, you need to have this work plan, you need to have this, and you need to, a coach will never tell you that. An executive coach will throw the question back to you and ask you, so what do you think you should do? If you were in this situation, like now you share with me, tell me about your experience. Tell me a little more. So you say you're struggling with managing people or with, emotions and how you can work together with your team. What did you do differently? If you are now that CEO who has it all, what does success look like to you? What is that successful, holistic CEO? Then you describe somebody who can manage people well, who can retain talent, who can deliver on numbers. So what are you currently doing? What's working and what's not working? What's stopping you from being that successful CEO that you've just described now? What would it take to get you there? So a coach is really just your walking partner. They will not tell you what to do. They will help you see those solutions to yourself. And this has become very critical in growing talent even for the future. People who can think for themselves, people who will have solutions. You are a CEO and you're stuck. You're not going to go to your PA to ask, now what do I do? I'm stuck. And you're the CEO. Help you drive the organization in the direction that needs to do. So in brief, in really, really basic terms, that's how I can define a coaching scenario or a coaching, basically to help you unleash your potential. The things that you will not learn in a classroom setting, but the things that you can learn on the job and the things that you need critically to be able to balance with your technical skills and be able to deliver in that holistic manner. So I am a certified executive coach who helps and supports executives in what they do. You have the technical skills, but let's help you also build on your leadership skills, management style, those soft skills that you need. But there are different kinds of coaching: career coaching, executive coaching, life coaching, the different areas of coaching. Career coaching in terms of how do I even know the right career to pursue? That's another stage. I do the executive coaching side.
Thank you, Nelly. Thank you, Nelly. A round of applause to our speakers. I'll have to stop it at that because of lunch. We'll be back here by 2:30, please. So try and get your food because we have an interesting afternoon session, the round robin, where you'll be put into the different subsets of careers that you want to pursue and seek more advice. So I will really ask that our speakers this morning, please don't drive away. Please be back in the afternoon because I know there's a lot of questions that people want to ask you at personal levels. There's a full scope that will be moving around. Please write your names as per the ones that you have on ID, not AKAs, because the organizing team would like to issue certificates for the guys who attended. So please ensure that you drop your name there. At this time, I'd like to invite Betty to try and direct us where there's lunch, the variety of that lunch, whether there's soya or not soya, so that we all know. Betty.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I know you're hungry. I'm sorry for keeping you here for long. We're going to have lunch served at the tent downstairs. So kindly ensure you have a meal card. If you don't have a meal card, kindly go to the deacon's desk and register there, and you'll get your meal card. Our guests, your lunch will be served at the prayer room, just here on my right. And now I'd like to give a token of appreciation to our guests.